Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down. Can't be afraid to leave this out. We got this far, don't know how. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna let it rain. Tonight we gonna let it rain. Tonight we gonna let it rain. Just like the sunrise, we gonna let it rain. Just like a spark that's breaking out. Can't make a stop, can't turn back now. We know that there's no room for doubt. No, we can't turn back now. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna let it rain. Tonight we gonna let it rain. Tonight we gonna let it rain. Just like the sunrise, we gonna let it rain.
Hello, everyone.
Wow, my hair just uncombed itself during the break. That's amazing.
How rude. It's most inconsiderate.
I know. I blame the government.
Obviously, it's Obama's hair straightness subsidies, something. Mm-hmm. Yes.
The Democrats, they don't want you to have good hair. Not like me. No way.
We're gonna have the biggest hair. Can you use hairspray on a wig? I haven't tried.
I don't know. Maybe.
Thank you all so much for joining us today. We're meeting a new friend. You may already know if you've been cruising the TikToks or were watching the Transatlantic Call-In show recently. But today we are joined by Mama Mephistopheles. Ha! I said it that time.
Yeah, if I knew how much people were gonna stumble over that name when I picked it, I might have gone with something else.
Oh no, it's so fun.
Yep, I am Mama Mephistopheles here live on your screens at this exact moment in time, 7:10 p.m. Central.
Yes. So for anybody who doesn't know you, which, you know, up until just a week or two ago included me, who are you and what do you do on the interwebs?
So I am a Texas-based trans influencer, spicy sites, muscle mother, and trans rights and leftist activists in general here in the Texas political scene. I specifically am located in San Antonio, but I also do a lot of work in the Austin area as well, because those two cities it's only about an hour and a half drive. So I'm able to get back and forth between those two cities. I am also the president of the 6W Project, which is a small little group that I have started here in Texas. We have a Discord and a rapid response email list. Our goal of the 6W Project is to address the who, what, when, where, why, and how of activism. And so we are gathering numbers and organizing we are gathering for political action across the state of Texas. Mostly it's me and folks that I met when I was up at the Capitol doing testimony and helping lobby for good bills in the Texas legislature. And it has been a whole ride, because I was not expecting to meet and organize with people there, and I was not expecting this group to happen, and yet it's happening, and we're getting shit done, and it's really nice. Sorry, I went off on a bit of a tangent there. That's more than just an introduction, but it's
all good. We do tangents around here. We literally have an emoji for the tangents.
Tangents. This is going to be good for my ADHD brain then.
Hell yeah. In fact, we just got a merch store a few weeks ago, and one of the products is a shirt that says, "I'm just here for the tangents." People literally come here for the tangents. It's fine. But yeah, that's a lot more than I even expected. Like, I mean, Austin being the state capital, but they've been so aggressively, just against every minority recently.
Yep.
So it's kind of wild.
Yeah.
Both the community making and the seeing stuff get done, but at the same time, that level of intense antagonism coming out of the government.
Yeah.
It's gotta be weird.
It's our governor, Greg Abbott, is very much trying to be a mini Trump. He started a Texas
Hot Wheels,
Doge. Right? He's trying to declare different organizations as terrorist organizations now. He's literally just trying to do everything that Trump does, but on a state level. And it's very strange, because I don't know if a governor actually can declare an organization as a terrorist organization. I believe it was a Muslim civil rights group that he did just now. And that was like today, I think. He's also basically given carte blanche to ICE and DHS and FBI, who are, I could go off on a whole tangent about how all of those federal agents are currently just being inducted into ICE, essentially. But giving them carte blanche to run through the cities. Not like he wasn't already doing that before, like Texas was already a pretty anti-immigrant government before Trump came into office the second time or the first time. Greg Abbott famously ordered the razor wire in the Rio Grande that they only took out after it drowned a pregnant woman.
Yeah, that's
pro-life state.
Amazing.
Yeah,
it's extremely anti-human.
Yeah, honestly, just this Sunday there was a raid here in San Antonio at it was like a pop-up nightclub. I think there was like illegal gambling going on there, but there was also this food truck park next to it. And they had let all of these federal agents come in and it'd start sweeping people up, just like random people who happen to be eating at the food trucks, And they say they got 150 people, which I don't know which is worse, if they are inflating their numbers to try and make themselves sound better, or if they are actually grabbing up that many people. But they're claiming that they're all Tren de Aragua, which is absolutely insane. There was footage that was recorded from a neighboring business that showed them just sticking guns into food trucks and grabbing people without checking any IDs or anything like that.
Holy crap.
Yeah, it was pretty awful. We had a protest there on Monday, and it was there's a lot of community solidarity around folks, but people are scared to take real action. ICE was sitting there trying to camp on the protest and intimidate folks, but it wasn't too much that they could do because we were just in public spaces. Still, it wasn't it wasn't necessarily the most I would say, I don't know what the right word is. The protest didn't do much more than raise awareness, I would say. But knowing San Antonio, there's a lot of people who drive that road, myself included, until recently, who don't really know too much about the fact that area, just has been in the sights of DHS and ICE and all of them. We do our best, but it's hard for any person to keep track of everything.
Oh, definitely. And the government's certainly not helping with any of that. And it definitely keeps you running. Now, first of all, thanks everybody for joining us. If you're new, hit the buttons. YouTube gives you a variety of buttons and they always help. I do have several questions prepared for Mama Mephi, but if you think of something, try to get my attention, perhaps with a super chat, for example, and I'll try to mark it for later. We'll do what we can, see how that goes. But yeah, as far as the advocacy,
if you want me to talk to you, you must pay.
Well, I mean, it doesn't hurt.
Nah.
No, I try to keep an eye on the chat, but when I'm like actively talking to someone, it's hard to produce the show and carry out a conversation and watch the chat all at the same time. Sometimes I pull it off, but not always. Yeah.
Talking to folks at the line, they were they juggle a lot over there anytime a show is going on, and they actually have like a whole setup. They have people whose job it is to just be producers,
Mm-hmm.
And
Jim's done a
it's
great
hard enough.
job of
Like
minimizing
doing my silly little debate TikTok lives is bit of a nightmare.
You see how it is with when you're doing it yourself, you have no choice but to take whoever shows up. But if you've got a producer, then that takes the pressure of running the show off of the people who are on screen. If you've got a call screener, then you can screen the callers and then select the ones that aren't the hateful assholes, or do select the ones that are hateful, whichever it is that you're aiming to do. Like, it gives you a lot more utility and a lot more production value, but it also requires more people to do. The far end of that spectrum is something like the ACA has set up. I don't know if you've encountered them as yet, but there's a bunch of organizations, but the ACA is one of the more famous, and they have like this structure that requires something like 17 volunteers to produce a show, and they refuse to cut it down. And so that makes it harder to produce shows than is necessarily necessary. But now I'm tangenting. I wanted to ask about your advocacy, because being a trans person doesn't entail advocacy. So what got you started wanting to show up and do stuff?
Well, I don't want to just immediately contradict you, but being a trans person, coming out as trans in Texas did kind of open my eyes to a lot of stuff, like there's hearing about the experiences of trans people, and then there's living the experiences of being trans, coming out was trading one villain for another in many ways. And so, basically I would say I just kind of got fed up, which I feel like is not an uncommon story. I created my TikTok to promote my OF. I was just trying to live my life. And I was like, I want to start talking about some politics stuff because I just want to rant, right?
Yeah.
And eventually it got to this point where people were following me and listening to what I had to say there. And I was like, I don't want to be a person who just talks the talk. I want to walk the walk, because just making TikToks and kind of screaming into the void wasn't enough for me. I wanted to I wanted to try and do whatever I could with my spare time to actually try and push back on some of this stuff that's happening, even just in a harm reduction way, because I mean, collective action and community is what gets us through times like these, you know?
It's about all, I mean, one person shouting at the clouds doesn't do much. It takes
Yeah.
It takes a village to raise a baby or to make a government behave.
Exactly.
Children, same thing. Infants, even, dare I say. My
And
goodness.
I would say probably the biggest barrier between just being a person who wants to see change and then starting to actually work on doing it was not knowing how to do it, which is and that impetus, right? The fact that I was just wandering into these spaces completely unknown, like that's scary. That's scary stuff, not knowing what to do and what you're looking for, right? That's why I started the 6W project, is because I really wanted to help break down those barriers for people. Oh, sorry, that's my Discord going off. Just
It happens. There's
Discord. All right.
There's a few folks that it just things and stuff and yeah, it's all good. But yeah, you're absolutely right. There's a large number of people don't get involved in government because it's intimidating. They don't know what to do or how to do it. And even if they work up the nerve to want to do something, you go like to the state building or whatever, and you're like, okay, you're going to what? Because you don't know what to do,
Exactly. And that's intentional on their part. They don't want you to know how things work. The government benefits from its opacity, or opacity. I don't know. It benefits from you not knowing how to best leverage the power that you do have as an individual citizen. You might think that you don't, but the fact is, it always comes back to that one thing from A Bug's Life. If those puny ants ever figure out that they outnumber us 100 to 1, there goes our entire way of life. It's
then the guillotines come out.
Yeah. I mean,
Viva la revolution.
I don't know how much we can talk about on YouTube exactly, but I will say, sorry, it's just trying to phrase things properly.
I mean, anything you can say on TikTok, you're probably safe on YouTube. In fact, there's a lot of creators who use TikTok speak over here, like unalive and stuff, even though you can say those words now. Yeah, so I don't stress too much over it.
Yeah. I mean, collective action just, it starts with getting in the spaces, If I could go off on a tangent here, I would say if there's anything that folks should remember, if there's any one piece of advice that you can take away from anything that I'm going to say today, it is get in the physical spaces with people, okay? Because there are things that you're not going to be able to do over the internet, okay? So often I see people saying, why are you organizing for folks to call their reps? Why are you organizing for folks to go and just do a protest? Let me tell you, the folks who are organizing that are the ones who are doing the offline organizing as well. But you need to get in that space and connect with them, because people aren't just going to broadcast everything that they're doing out to all the randos on the internet where they don't know you. But when you're actually meeting people, that's how you actually get into the important work, is by, unfortunately, knowing people. It's that old corporate line. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And that's one of the harder parts of activism, is that you have to network, right? But I will say, it's not as hard as you might think it is. I know that here in the queer space, we've got a lot of folks with social anxiety who aren't good at public speaking or going out and, just introducing yourself to people. But trust me, everybody else there, same way, or at least they started off that way, right? I definitely was, for sure. Okay.
Mhm.
So once you can get into the spaces, that's where you really start to have access to doing the things that we all want to be doing right now.
Sure. So how did that happen? Like you wanted to do more than rant on the internet, and now you're running an organization to try to help people get into the space. But how did you go from the one to the other?
So,
Like, did you just show up in Austin one day and be like, "Where's the people I need to see?" I could see you doing that.
well, basically, I started with testifying at the Texas legislature. I saw a video of Aaron Reed, actually, who I'm sure that you're
Hmm.
familiar with. Aaron Reed testifying at the Montana State Legislature
Hell yeah.
about her wife's bill, Zoe Zephyr's bill. It was a good one. And I was like, I could do that. I could just go up and talk. I can prepare a 2-minute speech. So I looked up how to do that in Texas, and then I went and did it. And once I was, and, you know, once I knew how to do it, there was this bill, SB 1999. It was the first one that I went to testify against, but I made a big deal of it on my TikTok. I was like, hey, you should come down here and join me for this. You should come and testify with me. Partly because I didn't want to just be the only one there, right? But because I figured, hey, if 1 or 2 people show up because of me, that would be great. Anything helps. And
Mhm.
there were over a dozen people who showed up that told me that it was because they saw my TikTok. And let me tell you, the folks who showed up because of that, they were the majority of the folks who were testifying there. And then, it just kind of hit me in that moment, seeing this long line of people waiting to testify. We waited like 12 hours that day to testify, I think. It was late in the
I've heard
evening
that's
that we actually
common
got to
in
do it,
Texas.
right? But seeing that long line of people, and we took a group photo afterward, and it was awesome. And seeing all those folks there, I was like, wait a second. All of these folks just showed up because I put out a call on the internet. This is something that it can actually do. Like, it became real in that moment, this sense
Mhm.
that of community organizing, that I wasn't just shouting into the void. People were actually listening. These weren't comments or likes. These were real human beings showing up to stand up for what we believe in. And it's
Pretty neat, huh?
easy to get detached from everything, but when you're actually in community, oh my goodness, it's overwhelming. And so while I was there, I started gathering gathering up folks, and we got into a group chat. And from there, it's just all kind of spiraled into where I'm at now. I see you vaping over there.
Accidentally became an organizer.
Yeah, pretty much.
I love it. So what
Mhm.
are you aiming towards? A general leftward shift, greater equality, or something more specific? Like, do you have a particular objective in mind?
So for me, my focus is generally on LGBT rights. I would like to focus. I mean, I would love it if I could tackle everything, but we don't have the numbers quite for that. But that's the thing is, you know, it's not going to be any one group that is able to cover everything, right? Like, not everybody is the DSA, and even the DSA can't be everything that folks think it is. But it's going to be 1,000 or 1,000,000 even little groups, little specialized things, just poking at our issues, right? Because the thing about using your power is that you have to leverage it where you're going to be most effective, right?
Mhm.
I'm not a person with experience in like immigration court and those kinds of legal proceedings. Excuse me. I do what I can to help with the folks who are organizing for those things, but they're the ones with the knowledge base, right?
Yeah.
I have made it a essentially my side hustle to just know everything there is to know about the state of LGBT laws in Texas. Well, probably not everything, but a good amount. And so that is where I can apply my skill set the most effectively, is where I actually have the skills and the specialization, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's like to use a nerdy metaphor, it's like a D&D party, right? If you have all sorcerers, you know, you're going to get folded over. If you have all healers, you're going to get folded over. If you have all tanks, it's going to get folded over. But if you have a nice, well-rounded party where everybody is specializing in their particular role, then you can really start to make some progress, right? We have our group doing LGBT stuff. There are lots of small groups poking up doing immigration stuff. There are folks fighting for abortion rights. You know, any issue that you can think of that is gonna have its own crop of groups. And another thing is, if there's a really niche issue, if there's something that you know of that most people are not aware of, it might seem like it's silly for you to focus on that. Like, it's silly for you to go off from these big important fights and focus on that. But the more folks that we have but if you are going into an issue where there's no one in that space, you're going to be able to make a big difference there, right? Like, shoot, I had an example in my head and it ran away. Gosh, what was it? I lost it. Sorry. It'll come back to me, I'm sure.
It's okay. They escape from time to time. There's the fences, walls, ladders,
yeah.
etc.
I mean, if your city in particular were to have some local group that was causing a specific problem for a specific demographic, right? There are larger groups that might have that sort of thing fall under their umbrella. But if you are being specific and tackling that issue, you can be very effective.
Oh yeah, and it's sort of the story of civilization, right? Like, when everyone was a hunter-gatherer, then, you know, they could take down bigger prey if they worked together, but they were very, very limited. But when some people started to when they had enough abundance that people could start to specialize, then some people could mess around in the dirt, and voila, agriculture was invented. And now some people grew stuff at an increased efficiency, and some people learned about growing certain things versus other things, and the nutrition increased, health increased, overall strength increased, and suddenly people could start doing other things, like studying medicine, for example. Like, the more we focus on what we're good at while supporting everyone else, the more the people who have very specific skills are able to bring those to bear to do fucking amazing things.
Exactly. You know, it's important to let 1,000 flowers bloom and to understand that your efforts are going to be better placed on certain things. For a general principle, I would say focus local if you can. There's a political calculation, if I can go off on this small tangent, but there's a political calculation or a bit of the mathematics of politics that I think folks should understand, which is that every time you random citizen take a political action, right, that goes above voting, anything beyond the threshold of voting, right, is going to be counted as essentially more than just one person's worth of effort, right? Because when a politician sees, oh, I've got 10 people calling me, right? Every one of those people is not just one person to them. They're not seeing that as one constituent. They're seeing that as X number of constituents. And it's going to vary.
The smart ones, anyway.
From politician to politician, from based on their judgment and the context and whatnot. But the general rule of thumb is that you have an outsized impact when you take an action beyond voting, because every person who is as motivated as you to pick up the phone and call, to go out and protest, to go and testify, to do other things that, you know, we might not want to say on the internet, there's going to be X number of people who feel the same way and will punish them at the ballot box, right? And that's not just for electoralism necessarily, right? The ballot box is the first line of defense, but also beyond that, you end up seeing things that get disruptive, right? Like if you have an issue that say you're in a deep red area, you know, and you're making a big stink about people are making a big stink about an issue, but the politician knows that they could ignore them because they're not going to get voted out. Well, then if they don't address the issue, they're going to start to see things like strikes, right? They're going to start to see things like protests that are disruptive, like actually disruptive. And it's just going to keep on escalating because even if you are in the minority party or viewpoint in an area, you still have a power to disrupt, and you definitely have more numbers than they want you to believe.
I understand that's especially true in Texas.
Yeah, you know, I will say, sometimes with people in blue states, you might see a certain level of complacency, but here in Texas, some of the most radical, effective activists, this is where they come from, right? Because we got to come out swinging. And that's another thing is that I think people should also understand is that part of your job as the dissenter, as a member of the I don't want to say party because I have my issues with the Democrats. They are not left enough, but
they're not even left.
The opposition viewpoint, the minority party, it is inherently the job of the minority dissenting party to impose cost onto the people in power, right? Everything that they do, you can make it more difficult for them to do, right? That's part of that, or that's really the main part of our activism in the Texas legislature, right? There were, I believe, 206 anti-LGBT bills introduced in our main legislative session this year. 199 of them did not pass. And that is not just because of the Republicans growing a conscience all of a sudden. It was because every single time they went to go and pass one, it meant that they had to sit through 12 hours of testimony from people like me and like the people who answered the call to action on my TikTok. You know, it's because they had to sit through hours and hours of debate from the Democratic state reps and Democratic state senators in our legislature who, you know, who are a little bit better, at least, than national Democrats. I find that state level Democrats tend to be better than national level Democrats, although Florida is a mess, but we don't talk about Florida. It's they have to sit through floor debate, they have to sit through amendments, they have to sit through testimony, they have to it gets to be put onto the record how many people oppose something versus showed up in support. And let me tell you, every single time it was always like hundreds of people on record against these bills. You know, there was always a ratio of like 10 to 1 at least of people who were pro-LGBT versus anti-LGBT on these kinds of bills, right? And whether that was a good bill for LGBT people or a bad bill for LGBT people, it didn't really make a difference, you know. And they like to pull tricks, you know. They like to you know, make people wait a really long time. They like to schedule the hearings for like 8 a.m. on a Monday and then make you wait until 6 p.m. to testify so that as many people as possible just go home because they can't wait that long. And yet there are still hours and hours and hours of testimony. And we only get 2 minutes apiece. Oops, excuse me. Should not be drinking a soda on stream because it always makes me burp, but what you gonna do? And then after that, after they impose these things, you know, it's something that you can slam them on, because they are always trying to tout about like the will of the people and whatnot. And, you know, something that I do with my testimony is I post the clips because it's important that people to know that it's important for people to know that there are times when you can speak truth to power. There are times that you can say it directly to their face and read them to filth. And, you know, if you spread a viral clip of you doing a roast on Republicans, great. If all you do is go up there and you just talk about your favorite recipe for green bean casserole, then you've also just wasted their time. Like, there's no bad way of doing it, right? Like, you don't have to be an amazing public speaker, but you can. Goodness, I'm stumbling all over my words today. But if you went to testify, you have done a good thing no matter what. There's no bad version of showing up to oppose the government in this instance, you know? Obviously consider your safety, you know? But if you are a person who will not be jeopardized personally by going in public like that, then there's no bad version of testimony. There's no way that you can go and testify and it'll create a worse outcome.
Right, because a lot of times the conclusion is foregone. You know, the people voting have already been bought and paid for by whatever corporation wants the distraction of the week or whatever the case may be. But it'll be on the record how many people oppose them, and you're making them pay for that ground. They're going to take it anyway, but by gum, they're going to pay for it.
Exactly.
Speaking
you know,
of safety, that raises another important question. How do you stay safe and suggest other people do likewise?
So the word of the day, as it has been for the past 10 months now, coming up on 10 months, is OPSEC, right? So for me personally, my OPSEC was pretty terrible, you know? So for me, at least, I feel like I am personally safer the more public I am, the more people might miss me if I'm gone. But it is always important to remember your operational security, which is making sure that you're keeping certain communications only on encrypted apps. You know, if you're planning on doing certain activities, maybe leave your phone at home. If you don't broadcast your location, for example, if you are a public figure. Like, that's something that I do. If you're here because you follow me, for example, you probably didn't know that I took a trip to New York this past weekend. I'm going to be posting about it later, but that's because I don't post about travel stuff until after I've already done it, for example. So that way someone couldn't like come up and like hit me. Like, sometimes if you're doing a call to action, I might be like giving away my location in that way, but at the Capitol, at least, there's security and cameras everywhere, which has upsides and downsides, but
for sure,
it makes it hard for people to like attack you, for sure. Although I will say, it's easy for me to say a lot of this stuff as a white person, as a citizen of the U.S. who was born in Texas. Obviously, if you are a person of color, especially if you are Hispanic or or if you're an immigrant, it is important to not necessarily expose yourself to ICE and stuff like that, because they are just allowed to racially profile people and falsely arrest people, apparently,
Mm-hmm.
I hate our Supreme Court so much, but ugh. Um, and I know that this probably isn't too relevant to what this person is saying, but there's a super chat that just came in about this person's disability pension. I will say, disabled folks, it's important to not like restrict what kinds of activity you're going to do. I'm going off on another tangent here, but
Well, I
something
mean,
that
disability advocacy is important.
yeah,
I mean, all the advocacy, it kind
yeah,
of dovetails together, but
yeah,
disability, any particular special requirements group, it can kind of highlight necessary or helpful functions for everything else as well. But also disability matters too.
it does. And also my other point was just to say certain actions that we can take with that political calculation that I mentioned before. Everything that you do above and beyond voting, everything that you do above and beyond voting, you count for X number of people, right? Disabled folks often feel like they don't have access to the um, kinds of actions that can really make a difference. But the thing is, like, if all you can do is like make calls and whatnot, it's still good for you to do. I don't want people to feel discouraged because an action feels small, but the thing is, collective action does actually work, even if you're just doing it from your house. To each their own, and to each to their ability, right? So that's just what I wanted to say about that, is that there are still things that you can do from home, and there are still ways that you can raise awareness and fundraise. There are still things you can still call people. You can still organize with folks. Sometimes people just need help keeping track of stuff, right? With organizing, there's a lot of different ways that you can get involved, even if you have disabilities that keep you from doing certain things.
You can make art. That's a big one because it inspires countless people. No matter where you are, what you do, if you make something that inspires people to act, then you may not have a working pair of legs, for example, which I bring up because that's a thing that I've had to deal with in the past. But you can mobilize thousands of other sets of legs to go places and do stuff, potentially.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And as another thing is, if you're in Texas in particular, or if you're in Austin in particular, and you are a wheelchair user, so is Greg Abbott. So they've, since it affects a Republican personally, they've actually got disability or wheelchair accessible places in the Texas Capitol, right? There's actually stuff for that. So I'm just saying, if you wanna, it is a space where you can go and yell at the government, and there won't be too many obstacles in the way.
Yeah, and we love to see it. And to be clear, that's not to be unnecessarily partisan. I mean, we both do have our proclivities in a certain direction, but we want you to go yell at the government when the other party's in charge too. Always fight for your rights.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It's if we have free and fair elections in the future, which is up in the air, I'm gonna wait for the Supreme Court to decide on whether or not they take up the Texas gerrymandering thing before I say that there's not gonna be any fuckery afoot with that. But in the event that we have free and fair elections in the future, and if Democrats get into power, you still need to keep pushing them, right? It's still important to keep pushing left towards our goals.
And
right?
and that's a big thing. That's something that I've always felt that way, but I think it got encapsulated best by Beard Daddy Vosh when he said something to the effect of, even when we have the most liberal people in charge, we still have to push left as hard as we can, because you better believe the billionaires are going to be pushing right as hard as they can.
That is very true. Yeah. It's they're on the right. They understand pushing the Overton window, and the fact is that people who are normal and sane generally just want to live their lives, right? The folks who want to control everybody else, they are a loud minority, and they know how to leverage their power, right? But if the majority leveraged our power in the same way, then they would never have power again.
Which would be ideal. But that is an important thing to keep in mind. The majority of extremists that you see out there, I don't know how the fuck they got MAGA to take them seriously, but they were never intended to be serious. They were intended to be the extreme outliers to drag the majority away from center and further to the right. The MAGA working was just, we don't live in a real reality. Apparently, there's too many NPCs, and you can hack the program or something. I don't know. I don't know why that happened, but that's not what either side intends to happen when they advocate for extremism. It's to move the middle, not to get their way. But I digress.
Yeah, there's I think a big part of what happened in 2024 is complacency, and that's not to downplay any of the other myriad factors that happen there, but
oh sure, there's definitely more than one thing.
Yeah, there's a significant portion of people, I think, who, Joe Biden gets into office in 2020, and then they're like, all right, it's over now. Don't have to do anything anymore. But, it's, gosh, I really hate the Obama quote where he's like, the arc of history bends towards justice, because the arc of history isn't doing that. It's people doing that. It's not just bending because it wants to on its own. People are pushing for that. People are grabbing onto that arc and snapping it over their knee,
I believe that's a Martin Luther King quote originally. No, actually it goes even further back. 19th century abolitionist Theodore Parker, adapted by Martin Luther King Jr.
Okay.
But the original quote was, I do not pretend to know where the great evil of history is to be found. Do not claim to see the end of this great movement. But I do know that with God's justice, though often slow, the character of his rule is such that the moral arc of the universe is long, but it does bend towards justice. But I do agree very, very much that we have to push, because it's just us doing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, adventures and things, and relating to pushing, but also relating to extremists, bad faith actors, the whether it's people trying to be harmful or people who are just being jerks with the just asking questions, debate me bro, trolls of all sorts. How do you deal with those? Either in TikTok or in person, wherever they occur more frequently?
Well, as a burgeoning TikTok debate sister, I will say, don't debate them in real life. It's not worth your time. Which might sound hypocritical, but that's the truth. It's, if you, right, like, when it comes to debate content on the internet, like, it can be tempting to, like, watch a bunch of Jovan Bradley content and be like, oh, if I run into these people, I can have the comebacks for everything. I can have all the facts and all this stuff on hand and really humiliate them. But the thing is, they don't super duper care. They'll yell louder, they will talk over, and they will not listen to a word that you're saying. It is, if you cannot farm them for content, essentially, then it's not worth engaging with them. These are folks who are, they're offering nothing useful to you unless you can farm them. But the thing is,
they're not interested in good faith debate. They're just there. Well, the motives vary, but one of the more common ones is to try to piss you off. If they can get an emotional reaction out of you, they count that as a win, regardless of what the point is supposed to be.
Exactly. It's just about, mostly they're after attention, I would say, like when it comes to their internal psychology. But it does have a very real world effect of, if you're talking about them to them, then you're not focused on doing your actual work. You're not focused on doing the things that you actually want to get done. Right? When you go to the, if you're going to protests, those counter protesters, ignore them. They are small and useless. Excuse me. I have been to a number of protests, and every time the MAGA chud side was always smaller. And this was during Biden's presidency and both of Trump's.
We see that with Pride celebrations too, like everywhere across the US, throughout the UK. You know, the gender critical conspiracy theorists are like, we're gonna roar about the trans people, and then when you see the photos, you know, like London Pride was like the biggest in history, over 100,000 people. 3 TERFs showed up.
Yep.
What are you people doing? They're a lot. They talk a big game, but there just aren't many of them.
Yeah. Now
it's wild.
So online, when it comes to online, I will say the block button is your friend. And this isn't just a don't feed the trolls thing. This is a safety thing, right? Because
mental health.
Yeah, definitely mental health as well. But I will say there's definitely a thing where the mental health of the people that you're blocking is not going to be necessarily the most great. Like if you are seeing, okay, when I post videos, I will usually get I'm being really terrible at words right now. All right.
English is hard.
English is hard. So there's a couple different kinds of haters, right? Now, the first type of hater is a person who is just scrolling by, and they're always leaving hate comments, so their algorithm is tuned to give them content that they will disagree with. And so they'll just scroll the same way that you or I might scroll through and leave positive comments on things that we like. They get that dopamine hit from scrolling through things that they hate and leaving comments on things that they don't like. But they don't think about any one particular thing that much, right? Like you watch one cat video and you type a little aw in the comments and then you move on with it, right? That's how I would say probably most of the haters are engaging with their hate. It's just a really messed up way to scroll through the internet. But there are also people who will latch on, right? And any one of that first kind of hater can become this second kind, where if you say something that really makes them mad for whatever reason, right? We're not talking about rational actors here. You don't have to have even done anything or said anything. It is entirely possible that you are just the wrong person to be in their feed at that time. They will latch on. There are people who will stalk and dox and do all of these things, right? But if you make it so that you are not showing up in their feed again, if you are not showing up in their algorithms again by blocking them when they leave that first hate comment, then it significantly reduces the chance that they're going to latch onto you, right? Because if you have multiple encounters with the same hater, then they're a lot more likely to get obsessed with you. Right. And then if you are just going through and blocking the hate comments as soon as they show up, then you don't show up in their feed again. And that significantly reduces the chances of that. And yes, it is also just good for your mental health, you know? And not just that, but also when it comes to cultivating an audience as well. Because you don't want people who are coming onto your videos to just open up the comments and see a bunch of hate and people arguing, right? Like maybe you get more engagement if you leave the haters in there and people are arguing with them, but also you're going to show up in more haters' feeds, you know, and less of the people that you actually want to be talking to.
Yeah, you'll start showing up in other people's algorithms because YouTube will go, oh, people who also watch this, even if it's all just hate comments, you know?
And I'm still trying to figure out if this works, but my hypothesis on blocking the haters is they engage with your content, leave it a comment, that boosts it in the algorithm, right? Stuff that gets more engagement gets more boosts, right? But if they engage with it, they're also going to be more likely to be a person who receives it in the future. And not just for the don't get or to avoid stalkers, but also because if they see you again in the future, they're also not likely to just like your stuff. They're not likely to positively engage with it. I'm not sure about YouTube, but I know that on TikTok there's like this 300 view testing window for a video where it gets served out to 300 FYPs, and if it performs well, then it gets pushed out to the wider algorithm, right? If one of those 300 people is a hater, then that video is less likely to get any reach. But if you block them, then you get the engagement boost from their comment without it potentially being served to that person in the future, and it's more likely to go to someone that you actually want to be seeing your content, who's going to engage positively.
It's a similar thing here on YouTube. They've recently changed the algorithm for how the vertical videos work, and we get swamped with haters. I've taken steps, like for this show, it's the chat is set to subscribers only, and I've not just for this show, but for other shows, I've doubled down on some of the blocked words that automatically hide comments to make things more tolerable for the poor mods. But if a hater scrolls by your video and they're like, oh, this is gross, I don't want to see it, maybe they leave a comment, and then they scroll on, you get a 26-second view time, which hurts you a lot in the algorithm. Like maybe you'll get hundreds of views, but if they all only watch 10 seconds on average, then the 12 people who were there for the whole time, the view time gets shredded down to nothing on average, you know? And it kills your video.
Exactly. And, you know, it can be difficult to get into creating content because these algorithms are designed to serve your content to people who will hate on it, because hate is engagement, right? And that's what they want.
Anger is what keeps
But the thing is, the people who like the content will actually stay, right? So the number of haters is essentially going to remain static while the number of fans grows.
In theory, we do our best, but I mean, there's people are intersectional.
Yeah, and that about covers the online portions, I guess. Offline, when it comes to dealing with these people, so obviously there's crossover between online and offline, like we were just talking about stalkers and doxers. So remember your OPSEC. But also offline, when you run into these folks who are bad faith, like, goodness. I guess if we're talking it, well, I suppose it depends on the context or what kind of offline disingenuous person we're talking about here.
It does vary a lot more offline because most people, even people who are inclined to dislike you, tend to leave you the hell alone in real life because they understand there's consequences for them too if they start something. Usually, it's often more, in my experience at least, the people who are out of their mind for some reason, like they're on drugs or they're drunk off their ass or whatever the case is, and then they don't necessarily hate you, they're just belligerent and you're there.
Yeah. Yeah. With those folks, it's generally best not to engage. If someone is like clearly in a state of mental health crisis like that, or well, maybe not mental health crisis. If a person is just being belligerent at you, it's best to just not engage, right? Because you're not going to be able to like talk them down or anything like that. There's not really a good outcome that you're likely to get there. If someone is having an actual like mental health crisis and they do need help, it'll depend on whether or not your city has a mental health crisis unit. Thankfully, in San Antonio, we do have one. But I would say if the only option is a cop or an ambulance, let's say call for the ambulance.
Oh, definitely. A paramedic will do a much better job than a cop on average. But also disengage if you can. Run if you have to. It's way better than any possible, like, fixing an idiot is not your problem. Staying alive is your problem. Stay alive first. Fuck all the rest.
Yeah. And when it comes to contexts like, say, being at the Texas Capitol, I have a bit of a different approach than is recommended necessarily by a lot of folks. I'm not really a reach across the aisle kind of person. There's a place for that, definitely. That's definitely something that people do and is important. Also, sometimes people, they need the wake-up call. Sometimes, like at the Texas legislature, it's not just in the testimony, you know. I've had a few conversations off camera with these folks, and it's important not to shy away from what's actually going on, you know, not using flowery language or focusing on civility, because they don't, right? It's important to stand your ground in those instances, and stand for what you care about and not engage in the pointless shit, the pointless things, the distractions, because that's what they like to do, right? They want to get you caught up on some frivolous side point. But when Republicans really don't know how to deal with people who stay on point, who stay on topic. I mean, it's just kind of the way that works.
Yeah, red herrings. It's not just for logic and debate. It's a real rhetorical tactic people use in regular conversation.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, we are a little bit over
sorry.
an hour.
I feel like I don't have a ton of great advice necessarily in that realm, because I, as a white person, do tend to get left alone a lot. And I live in one of the blue dots as well, so I am at least able to, you know, for the most part, go about my life unaccosted. I mean, stuff happens sometimes, but once again, with those folks, don't engage. Just focus on your stuff. There's being out in public with random strangers who you don't know what they can do, and then there's the context of being in a political space, doing political activism where you need to stand your ground. But I would say just keeping on mission is the really important part when it comes to dealing with folks who are bad faith. And that's about all I've got for that, I think, unless you have any follow-up questions.
Oh, that's so good. I was just saying we're a little bit over what I promised you I'd keep you for. So I just have one more question, and then we'll get to a couple audience questions.
Cool.
What
Yeah, I mean,
do
take as much time as you need. Sorry.
What do you wish someone had told younger you that would have made your life better today?
Well, you're trans, dummy. You didn't peek your head out of the closet 6 times for no reason, but that's kind of beside the point. When it comes to activism, basically, I feel like I should have saved a lot of the stuff that I said earlier for this part, but honestly, it is the political calculation thing when it comes to leveraging your power, because this is like one of the more fundamental things about political activism that I wish more people understood, is the thing where your voice has outsized power. You represent some number of people that is greater than one every time you take an action, right? And you can use that to your advantage. And when you have a lot of people, you can use that to your advantage, to great effect. People don't want you to know that, but that's true. I'm doing the invisible accordion thing.
Da, 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 da. We'll play a polka. It's been a truism in business for a few hundred years, and politicians eventually figured it out that when you get a complaint from one customer, you have to assume there's 100 customers who feel the same and didn't bother to complain. They just went to a different store.
Exactly.
So yeah.
And yeah, when it comes to stuff that I wish people had told me when I was younger, I guess I would say that that's probably one of the more important ones. When it comes to political activism, there's a lot of personal answers to that question, I guess I could get into, but I'm not sure that those would be widely applicable. I should have thought about this answer more. And
it's all good. We're not expecting you to solve every potential problem in the universe. Most people I ask just go with, if I could time travel back to my younger self, hey, you actually are trans. Relax and focus. You know?
Yeah. It's important. And I think another thing that's important to know is or something that I wish I would have been told when I was younger, is that people in positions of authority aren't always telling you the truth. Like I grew up in kind of a well, they were Tea Party at the time sort of household, but
oh, good.
Yeah.
There was very little that adults in my childhood told me that actually turned out to be true. The United States is not, as it turns out, a functional democracy, nor the freest country on earth.
Right?
Police are not your friends. You can subtract 5 from 3, and being a trans person is a real thing, not just something they made up for the Jerry Springer show.
Yeah.
Adults lie to children a lot.
That was something that that was a big barrier for me. It was like, I was dealing with stuff that I now understand is gender dysphoria, right? But like the understanding that I had of trans people growing up was always this like caricature, the man in a dress sort of thing. And it was always just this like really caricatured or overly fetishized thing that just I would be like, oh, well, that's not me. This must be something else, But turns out it was the TV that was wrong about what trans people are.
Yeah, and that's the sensationalism. That's a whole topic unto itself. We'll save it for other shows and other times. Before we go, there's
just on that last note, of like whatever education you have, wherever you went to school, if you have like a high school diploma, I guarantee there's things that you don't know that you should, that should have been taught to you, that are pretty basic and very fundamental stuff. Like I live in San Antonio, right? This is where the Alamo is. Okay? We have a whole year of our school curriculum in middle school. The history class is Texas history. You know what they don't tell you that the Texas Revolution was about?
Any of the real reasons?
Yeah.
It was for the glory of Christ.
Yeah. But you know, it's everything. Texas has a mini version of every problem in America, and that includes Civil War revisionism, because they don't teach you that Texas seceded from Mexico because they wanted to keep chattel slavery. That was not taught when I went to school. I don't know if they teach it now, but yeah, 7th grade Texas history. Like, sorry, Davy Crockett died to defend the right to own slaves. And they actually just pressured the head of the, what's it called? The Alamo Commission, I think, to resign because she had a dissertation about the importance of Indigenous Peoples Day.
Well.
Yeah. Like, there's a lot of injustices going on all the time. They're all around us, and there's too many for everyone to keep track of. But trust me, they are pervasive. And if you look, you'll find them.
Yeah, I can imagine. There's a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, I'm sorry. I interrupted you while you were about to start on another thing. I just had to get that tangent out of my system.
It's all good. It's worth noting. And like I said at the beginning, people come here for the tangents. That's all right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just wanted to go through the stuff that I saved from the chat as we went. First, Lilibel Trade sent a super chat for $5. Thank you, Lil. Not pertaining to anything in particular. Just she says, Mama Mephi apologizing for a Discord notification. Meanwhile, I should backstory a little bit. Lil is one of my co-hosts on the morning show I do. So she says, meanwhile, I have my dogs interjecting every 5 minutes because dogs.
Well, you know, depending on your definition of dog, the Discord notifications might be that too.
It barks.
They do that.
Aunt Jer says, question, my representatives are doing great and making the right choices. What can I call and suggest to them that they should do to convince their colleagues to follow suit? What mechanisms of coercion are at their disposal?
So it's going to vary depending on where you are and what the specific cause is. But I would say the thing to do to pressure them would be to tell them that they need to be spending more time talking about these issues in the halls of the legislature, wherever that is, and you know, you can also get them to sign on to things that might affect other districts as well, and also you can go directly to that person's district and rally people there, right? Like, living in San Antonio, I've encouraged people who are outside of my city council district to call city council and whatnot. It's always possible to lobby directly outside of them, but for the ones who are there, it's important that they communicate, especially with the public, and create that public pressure, right? Because if you want a left-wing Democrat to pressure a centrist Democrat, what they need is public support, right? What they need is a public push, and they need to be aligned with the base on that. They need to be aligned with people, with what people are asking for. And depending on specific issues, if you have a specific ask for something, like if you have, say, a particular bill that you think more Democrats should be signing on to, call your good representative, set up a meeting with them give them as much information on that thing as you can, right? These representatives, they aren't experts in every field. If you can prep them to defend your causes, then they're going to be able to be much more persuasive to their colleagues, right? If you just type up a one-page primer on a given bill or subject, and you give it to them in an easily digestible way, then they're definitely going to be able to convey that a lot more easily to their colleagues, or hell, even pass out that primer to them. You know, say, hey, this is a political goal that is actually achievable, and here are the steps of how we do it, right? We just need to use our power in this way, right? Part of the 6W project, giving the who, what, when, where, why, and how is going to apply to your reps as well, because we're electing people. At the end of the day, they are human beings. You know, they are flawed, and, you know, a lot of the time they might suck, but they are still also people. And people, they have the same drawbacks that most of us do. You know, they can't know everything, but we can teach them.
It'd be nice if they knew some of the things. There's so many career politicians. I'm in New York State, where everybody's just a corrupt career politician. You know, for the longest time, we had the most corrupt state legislature in the U.S. And then Florida stole our trophy.
I watch the Majority Report most days, so I know far too much about New York politics for a Texan. But that what was it? The IDC, the I Don't Cares. But yeah, and you know, a lot of good politicians, they have general knowledge on things. They have general knowledge on issues and can advocate for them generally. Like, but if you can give them the specifics, if you can give them stats and facts and figures, if you can just give them everything that they that a lay person might need to know to make a compelling case for it, then that's a barrier between them and pushing this through that you've just knocked down.
I tend to get a bit more direct action when it comes to dealing with the opposition. I remind my representatives of some of the wisdom of Machiavelli, which is, you know, defend a neighbor against a mutual enemy, or show an enemy places where he is weak and might be subject to attack. Like, for example, if you want to put pressure on a Republican to either support or back the fuck off of a particular bill, you can point at other bills that are less politically hot potato-y and promise support or threaten resistance. And that's a very surface level negotiation stuff, but a lot of politicians seem to forget to do that. But you can also go you could go a lot deeper. We've seen in some cases representatives have threatened to support a primary opponent if the representative didn't go along. Like, this matters to me so much, I will fucking replace you if you don't get in line. You know?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, remember,
there are a lot of Democrats who need primarying right now, and the energy is there. The energy is there, right? On the local level, if you went and knocked on doors, right? Maybe like a senator, you might not be able to do just on your own, but you get like 10 people, a couple weekends, you might be able to knock out a couple city council members. Just get them out of there, get them going, get them replaced.
It only takes only the insane people, like the Moms for Liberty candidates, most politicians will see a couple people get replaced and start to get afraid for their jobs, and they'll straighten up real fucking quick. It's remarkable, really.
A lot of Democrats seem to be forgetting that. Hakeem Jeffries.
Oh yeah, there's quite a few. I mean, there's nobody in New York likes Schumer, especially now. But no one believes they can defeat Schumer because no one believes they can defeat Schumer. It's so wild. If I weren't a trans atheist, I would primary his ass, but I will never win in New York. So, you know. But I'm looking for a Mamdani that I can throw my support behind on Schumer's seat anyway. So
Yeah,
we will see.
most
All right.
definitely.
Deviant Outcast sent us a super chat that you mentioned earlier for 200 sex, which is objectively the coolest fucking currency, and said, I got my disability pension today. It's not much, but here, have some for fun and a tiny bit less stress. And we always appreciate having less stress. So thank you very
Yeah.
much, Deviant. And then Deviant also had a question. What can we who are not in the US do to help our US LGBT friends and fellow humans? Can we do something besides donating and online support?
I was, besides donating and online support,
Have you heard of the Underground Railroad?
yeah, I mean, if you have a safe place for people to go, I would say probably one of the best things that you can provide is information. Like if your country is relatively okay, then helping people understand what it might take to immigrate is a good thing. There are, I know that a lot of people don't necessarily think that we see it, but protests and solidarity do help. We see, like, I know that on the No Kings Day, there was a lot of folks who, or the No Kings Day protests, there were a lot of folks around the world who were protesting in solidarity. And that was pretty good. It's hard to think of necessarily what folks might be able to do without actually being here or working through the internet, or just like,
There's
spreading
nothing
awareness.
wrong with working through the internet. For example, the U.S. federal government recently took away the LGBT youth mental health care, the option off of the 988 suicide prevention number. The Trevor Project was running it, and they're still running their own version, but because it's no longer on that number, it's harder to access, and so other services like Trans Lifeline, for example, have become a much bigger deal. And Trans Lifeline needs operators. They need remote operators who are available in any time zone. So that's a thing a person could conceivably do. Now, they pay their operators, which means there's a limited number of positions that only open up every so often. But there's things like that where they do need people in other countries who are available to take calls and such like that. As one, for example.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that. That's a really good recommendation. Yeah, I'm probably going to start telling people that now. Honestly, thank you for that.
Yeah. There's so much stuff that people can do. More direct action, more helping individual people. But also, I mean, there's other things
outside of money and online support. So, yeah, definitely those online volunteering opportunities are good. Providing information, DIY HRT usually comes from outside the US. Estrogen is not a controlled substance, but they do still need help sourcing it. Because individual producers can be hard to track down outside the country.
If you're interested in helping people access healthcare in places where it's harder to,
medical tourism is going to be a lot bigger going forward, I'm sure, especially with these ACA subsidies getting taken down. So if
I had the money,
in Canada or Mexico and you have a place that someone can crash while they get a root canal or bottom surgery or whatever the heck else it is, that's definitely a useful thing too, as well.
Yeah, and I mean, we could probably, if we took some time, we could probably do an entire presentation on things that people can do regardless of where you are in the world and such. And even that wouldn't be exhaustive, just the general shape of things. certain specific suggestions. English is hard today. To inspire people on the shape of things they could do, because I mean, there's as many things as a person could do as there are people who could do them. So it's
Yeah,
pretty
exactly.
neat. But yeah, so thank you all for your questions. Thank you for joining us. Before we wrap up, because the audience shifts in and out towards the beginning versus the end,
Did I
remind
lose you?
people where to find you and what to expect when they get there.
Oh, sorry. I think I lost you for a sec. Did you see any disruptions?
I did not.
Okay, that was
And
weird.
it'll take like 42 seconds for the chat to let us know.
Okay.
There's a delay.
Okie dokie. Well, as a reminder, I am Mama Mephistopheles. I am stumbling my way through activism. The best way to learn is by doing, and the best way to begin is by beginning, as a great prankster once said. My YouTube, I need to be more active on there. I'm not super active on there right now. I would say if you want to make sure that you're getting all of my updates, go to my TikTok or my Instagram. That's where I'm most active. I am Mama Mephistopheles everywhere. I also encourage people to join the 6W project if you're in Texas. We have a Discord. You can find, we have a Discord and a rapid response email list. So you can find the links for those at our link tree, linktr.ee/6W project. And that'll take you to the Discord or the rapid response email. You don't have to provide your name or any any particular email. You can use a burner. We're not trying to just farm people's data or anything like that, if you're worried about that, but it is going to be good for rapid mobilization. Currently, we are waiting for action for the outcome on the rainbow crosswalks in Austin to mobilize people really fast to go and occupy the intersection, right? So for that and other future actions, we'll always need people who can respond quickly. So if you can, that would be fantastic. But even if you can't do that, get in the Discord, share resources, suggest actions, talk with other people. There's folks from all over Texas in there. So there's probably someone in your area that you could organize with and start getting in those spaces. And if you just want to support me in particular, because you like my face and my muscles, I also have the spicy sites. So don't forget about those.
Hell yeah. Alrighty. Well, thank you so much for coming by, having a chat.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm a bit spacey brain today, but I hope we got some good stuff out there.
Hell yeah. And thank you all for joining. As I often say, the main reason to do lives is to hang out with you folks, to get your questions, your inspiration, your occasional corrections, etc. I appreciate y'all so very, very much. If you're watching in the future, remember to subscribe, because we'd love to see you in the live chat in a future show. And yeah, I guess that's going to do it for today. So
awesome.
As always, remember, you don't have to deal with hateful assholes. Like you just don't have to. I normally I do a lot of counter-religious, counter-apologetics stuff, and so I can usually sum up the tone of the video with something that ends with "You're better than religion." But you don't have to hate your fellow human beings for being who they are, being a member of a minority, or anything else, because you are better than conspiracy theory cults like gender criticals, better than the white supremacists who are also a conspiracy cult, but never mind, and you're better than religion. Good night, folks.
Good night.
Thanks to all our patrons and top-level members for October. Miranda, Karen Butcher, Jessica the Transmetal Alchemist, Robin Webster, Maya Adkison, Jimmy Tux, Ian Chen, Kalasia, Lilith, The Barely Bearable Atheist, Eric Wander, Jason Jacoby, Godless Engineer, Jester, Lil of All Trades, Deviant Outcast, and Kelly King, the Detroit Atheist Queen. And you can add your name here next month by signing up at patreon.com/betterthanember, or by joining Emberships here on YouTube at the Cinder level, which includes all the custom emojis, tons of member-exclusive content, member-only live streams, and a bunch of other stuff. I deeply appreciate all the supporters who keep this channel going. Thank you all so much. Because of you, we're building a wonderful community that I'm very proud of.
Just like a spark that's breaking out. Can't make a stop, can't turn back.